Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Adobe Live, or good morning, good afternoon, good evening, time appropriate salutations, because I know we have a lot of far and away friends in the chat this morning. I'm seeing Bliss and Umacorn, General Kenobi. Hello there. Frank, Jessica, Wade Acuff, the one and only. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Voodoo Val, and I'm going to be your host yet again for this wonderful illustration segment. And I am joined again by my friend Chioma this morning. Chioma, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm super excited about this stream because yesterday was like my first stream ever, but now I am more comfortable. So
Know what
let's
to
get
expect.
into it.
Feeling good, feeling
Yeah.
excited. I'm pumped. I'm really stoked to kind of jump into what you have planned for us today. But before we jump into that, I would love to remind everyone that if you're over on the YouTube and you don't know who I've been greeting in chat and all this stuff because you don't see them, it is probably because you are not in the chat that we are reading. Please come over to behance.net/live. That is where we're going to be reading the chat, where I'm going to be forwarding your questions to Chioma, and where you can also get all of the helpful links and resources and things that our moderators post. So yes, please come over to behance.net/live. You should have a link being posted into the YouTube chat over there. So just click on that, come on over. Timur, welcome in. It's good to see you. Robert, hello. And George, good to see all of you folks. Thank you so much. Is there a sponsor for this show? No. No, that's for the game show. But yes, so let's jump into it. Chioma, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, what your favorite childhood cartoon is, if you
Yep.
can. Just give a little update for those who maybe weren't here yesterday and want to learn about you, and then let us know what you're working on today.
Yeah. So hello everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. My name is Chioma Chioma Iloegbunam, and I am an illustrator based in Georgia, and I'm currently working for Nickelodeon right now, for Noggin specifically. So super excited about that. And yeah, today I'm going to be showing you guys a little fun anthropomorphic character design of a mouse. So we're going to call him Squeaklock Holmes because puns and everything.
Squeaklock Holmes. I'm
Yes.
so emotionally invested in this already, Chioma. I'm
Yes.
so into it.
So yeah, it's going to be like a little Victorian mouse character design. So I'm super excited to show you guys today.
Awesome, awesome. And your favorite childhood cartoon. We have to
Cartoon.
know this
Yes.
because we've
Okay.
been talking about cartoons for 2 days now, and we haven't talked
Yeah,
about which are our favorites.
I know. Okay, so I was kind of like a Cartoon Network slash Nickelodeon baby.
Mm-hmm.
So my
Mm-hmm.
favorite cartoon was SpongeBob for the first through fourth season. Everything
Mm-hmm.
after that does
The
not
good
count. But
seasons, you
yeah, the
mean?
good seasons, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And then for Cartoon Network, I probably say Courage the Cowardly Dog was my favorite.
Ooh,
Yeah,
Courage. That was a heavy one. That was
very
that was a
heavy.
that was a heavy show for kids,
I
wasn't
know,
it?
right? The
I
8-year-old me was a
actually,
fan.
yeah, like I love that show, but I also had nightmares about that show. Maybe that's
Same.
why I'm so strange now.
I just kept going back to it though. I was like, this is weird, but I like it.
But I'm
So
into it. Somebody needs to be nice to Courage. Courage needs a hug, and a vacation. Poor thing. But
yeah.
yeah, Fairy says Nickelodeon. No wonder I'm familiar with your character that you designed yesterday. Maybe the style looks similar because yesterday I
Possibly.
believe those characters were your past music teachers that were
They
very
were.
inspirational to you.
Yeah.
Um, I have the Karate Island SpongeBob DVD, says Fairy. Honestly, yeah, SpongeBob
Nice.
did change. I believe the writers of SpongeBob moved to Adventure Time.
Ah,
Uh,
that makes sense.
I believe
Okay.
that's what happened.
Yeah.
All right. So, what are the first steps in this project? How do we begin here? What
Yeah.
is this gonna look like?
Like this.
I
Okay.
am also really, really loving the starting colors here, and I'd love to know, folks in chat, when you are starting an illustration or even just a logo design or any creative project, do you folks start with a blank background, like a white canvas? Or do you guys choose a solid color, kind of like Chioma has done today? Do you like to choose a color or a shade too? Because sometimes I start with a gray and sometimes I start with like a rust red, which helps. And is this something that you always do, Chioma? Do you always start with a colored background whenever you begin a project?
I do, yeah. So usually it just helps me try to figure out like what tints and shades I'm using.
Mm-hmm.
So for this one, I just like made my own color palette before. We didn't really talk that much about color yesterday because I was basically just like, I don't know, the color palettes just choose me at this point. But
They
sometimes
choose
I do
me.
try to, yeah, they just choose me. But yeah, sometimes I do try to like take into consideration like the time period or like what kind of character I'm going for.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a Victorian mouse. So
Mm-hmm.
usually when you think of the Victorian era, you think of like cool colors and then like a couple of like shades of brown. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why I made my color palette like that. But
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah. I think Victorian is always like dreary regency, right? Like
yeah,
honestly, it's kind of far and away from maybe the genre that we're illustrating here, but I think one of like a project that has some of the most incredible colors that kind of go with this time frame is, if anyone has ever played the game Dishonored, it is one of my favorite games of all time, and the colors for that are so good. And they do a really good job of, and maybe you have experience with this, kind of really setting the mood for indoors, outdoors, and different times of day. Like, it's funny how colors can be chosen for a project and be like totally different, but like still mesh well. So
yeah.
this is kind of given me like the outdoor, like it's raining in the morning and I'm on a mission kind of vibe. That's like what I'm visualizing here. Um, Annika says that she likes to do a paper tone that Wade taught her, which is interesting when starting a piece, and that's pretty cool. I like to start with a color as well. Sometimes for, as you say, Chama, like, kind of get in a vibe, but
Mhm.
also because sometimes when you start with a color, it makes that canvas a lot less intimidating, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, most definitely. If you start with white, you start to get confused with like what colors you should use.
Mm-hmm.
And usually like when I'm doing stuff with like warm palettes, I always go for like the manila
Mm-hmm.
envelope color because I really like that. It kind of reminds me of those like tinted sketchbooks.
Yeah.
You know which ones I'm talking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's typically what I like to do. It's just less intimidating once you don't use white.
Yeah, it just makes it
Yeah.
like, you have kind of a starting place. You're not filling a bunch of empty space. It's almost like because it kind of goes with like an impressionism kind of thing, where sometimes just having certain colors in places or shapes or shadows, it kind of makes the mind fill in on its own
Yeah.
information about those colors and about those shapes. And sometimes for me, I think it works in that way where I throw a color like this and I'm seeing a scene, I'm seeing an atmosphere already, even though it's literally just a solid color in the background. So I can work
Exactly.
towards that end easier. My new favorite thing, and that is this curvature pen
Pen
tool
tool.
that is just absolutely fabulous. So maybe we can kind of go over that technique again, just in case somebody who wasn't here yesterday is sitting at their desk like, oh my gosh, what is
It's
happening?
happening.
Yeah, so why don't we talk about that?
Yeah. So if you guys were not here to witness my chaotic process yesterday, basically I kind of developed like a little workflow that works for me because I used to work in Illustrator before I went back to Photoshop. And
Mm-hmm.
I found that the way for me to get like my cleanest lines is just by using the curvature pen tool.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said yesterday, like I have a very shaky hand. So it's kind of hard for me to do like perfect coloring that's like in between the lines unless I have another tool to help me with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started using this method and I was like, okay, this is actually really effective and it makes the line super clean. So I'll go in with like some rough line work, like as like a base layer. And then to, kind of carve that out a little bit, I'll use the pen tool. And now I cannot
Nice.
stop using this method. So it's
It's
great.
really very clever. I also like that you have a very, I guess, like a very whimsical style of movement when it comes to placing these things in. Like, honestly, I think that my first instinct when creating that eye would have just been to do an oval and then to throw those shapes in with a clipping mask like you did. But I don't know that I would have thought to do like the eyelid that kind of like pulls away from the main oval shape there, and like, because that whole shape of that eye just goes up and it gives him such an emotion right off the bat, that is just like very unique and I think impactful when it comes to like setting the mood of this character. And I wonder what sort of things do you study or have you practiced over the years to really give you an eye for creating emotion like this in your pieces, like when it comes to giving something personality? Do you practice facial expressions, or do you just keep certain things in mind when you're approaching a character?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked. So a lot of my inspiration, like early inspiration, comes from a lot of the like older Disney veterans of animation. So a lot of them are like super great about incorporating expression into their characters, but still keeping it simple. So yeah, I studied a lot of the art of books, and really tried to study how they do their character designs and how they incorporate so much expression into their characters, especially with animals, because I know it's a lot harder to convey certain emotions with animals because they don't, you have to put that human element into them if you want them to have that sort of expressiveness, I guess. But yeah, I definitely did a lot of studying for like a lot of animators, and they're really, really great with portraying emotion within their characters. So that's typically how I usually get my inspiration for that. But as far as shape language, I know I mentioned this yesterday, but I'm like really, really big on breaking everything down into shapes. So that's, yeah, I don't know. I guess I just I really enjoy things that have like a nice smooth flow to them. So that's kind of something that I just incorporate into all my characters, and then I just develop this kind of style.
And goodness, this is it. Just I think that you have kind of developed such an eye for the shapes that it really just flows together pretty quickly. And I wonder if, like, do you concept out a character with the main shapes in mind, or is that something you're doing during this shape stage? Or like when you like is it just born like once you decide to start like putting the character together, or like right when you're sketching and just kind of figuring it out, are you already in that mode in your head, like, okay, here's a main shape, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so it's kind of like a little bit of both. So sometimes when I do like a preliminary sketch, or even before that, I try to think of who the character is, like what kind of shapes I want to incorporate. So the shapes themselves can also tell a little bit of their personality. And then once I start rendering it, some things might change. I might think, maybe let's make this corner a little bit rounder since this character is friendlier, or let me make this corner a little sharper because, oh, this character is, a villain, stuff like that. So it really just all depends. But yeah, for the most part, like it's a pretty, I guess, spontaneous process. But yeah.
Well, I love it. This is so cool. Let us know in chat if you folks have any questions at all for Chioma, and like general advice, or just questions about character creation. I understand that aside from just designing characters, you also do landscapes, and I may or may not have spent like 45 minutes looking through your landscapes on your website yesterday.
Well, thank you.
They're just so full of color and life, and I just love them. So if you guys have any questions about that, please let us know. Let me scroll through here and make sure I didn't miss any questions. Looks like Clever says, for goofing around and sketching, I use white, but when I'm really working on something, I use gray or toned colors for my background. Okay, cool. So you don't really, I guess you don't really worry about it too much if you're just messing around, just throwing stuff on the canvas. But if you're really in a serious project, then you pull out the colors. Gotcha. Clever is also talking about Aristocats. Aristocats is so near and dear to my heart.
Love that movie.
I think I know word for word like every single song from that movie, and so does everyone in my house. and the O'Malley the Alley Cat song is
Yes.
something that somebody in my home will start singing, and then everyone else will hear them, and we will just come in at our assumed parts until the house is singing the Aristocats music.
Love that. Yeah, I had a phase where I was like, when I get a cat, I'm gonna name him J. Thomas O'Malley, and it's gonna be great.
It's a pretty good one. I've actually seen, I had a friend once who had a cat that looked just like Toulouse. And she's like, I am slowly collecting all of the Aristocats, and she was giving them, like, you know, she had the little, I can't remember the white cat's name, like the little girl.
Duchess.
Duchess.
Oh no,
yes.
I think that was the wife, not the little girl. What was the little girl's name again? Do y'all remember?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it because Duchess was the mom.
Yeah.
Gosh, I can't remember, but she had like the bow and stuff, and so she was like, I'm gonna get this
Yeah.
cat and I'm gonna give her the bow. And I was like, you are like such a fan right now, and I'm definitely gonna come over and hang out with these cats. Like, there's no getting around that. I'm a major cat person. I would love to know, by way of emoji in the chat, are you a cat or a dog person? Because that's a very important question. Need to know. So cat emojis for cat people and dog emojis for dog people. Let me see it. General Kenobi has a question for you. Is Chioma using a stylus or mouse for the pen tool? For me, the pen tool is easier with a mouse, but maybe it just needs more practice.
Really? I can use both anyway. But I do prefer using the stylus just because it's just quick and easy. I feel like with a mouse, it takes me back to my infamous Microsoft Paint days where I first started doing stuff digitally. I was like, this is too hard. I'm just going to use this. And it's just a lot quicker for me, but it's possible to use both though.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's a little, it kind of varies. I do a lot of my graphic design work with my mouse, and I do my illustration work with my stylus, and sometimes there are little things that are much easier for me to do precisely with a mouse, and then some things there's no way that I could use anything but a stylus, you know, in order to get it done. We've got some folks coming in with their emojis. We got some cat emojis. We got some cat and dog emojis. Megan coming in clutch with the curveball here with a dog and a horse emoji. We got a lizard emoji. We got a cat, dog, horse, fish, and mouse emoji.
Yay, mouse.
Y'all have taken this assignment to another level. There's I see a few spiders and ducks in there. Val does graphic design too. I do a lot of graphic design. I just don't always post it for everybody to see, because a lot of the stuff that I do can't be released until a certain time, and then I forget after it is. But I do. I am like creative director of sorts for a wrestling federation, and I do tons and tons of graphic design work constantly. That is like I always have graphic design projects going, and it's really strange, I think, to do graphic design and illustration like in the same day, because it kind of for me it uses different parts of my brain, you know, so it feels a little odd. I wonder if you do like work aside from like animation illustration, and if so, like what does that feel like making that transition, especially like in the same day, in the same sitting for you, Chioma?
Yeah, so before I started like doing illustration stuff, like freelancing as like full-time, I actually did a lot of graphic design stuff. It was for like a lot of smaller companies though, but it would usually be like poster designs or just, you know, very, you know, brand stuff. And then I was like, I do not enjoy this as much. Because I mean, even though like you can definitely be super, super creative with graphic design, but depending on which client you have, there's still like a lot of limitations that you have. I just feel like you have more creative freedom in this realm. So that's why I enjoy it. But it's easy for me just because I used to do it a lot before I started doing this professionally anyway, but I just prefer this more.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's about how I felt. I actually, the first gigs that I was getting when I first kind of jumped into the design scene, there's the job that I hated the most from the doc days, and that is designing websites.
Oh
Was
no.
oof, oof, big oof. And I know there's some people that love designing websites. That's their bread and butter. That's their go-to, and they love it. I hope I never have to design another website ever again. I never want to do it again. I
And it's
hated it.
like you see people who do it and they make it look so easy, but
Yep.
I don't know. Cause even like with my website, trying to customize it, I was like, I didn't even make this website, but this is still too much. So
Yeah,
kudos to
it's
anybody that
just
likes doing stuff like that.
yeah, I have like a drag and drop website that's like super easy for me to maneuver around in, and I still don't like doing that. It's just not for
Yeah.
me. And I was doing it I mean, I couldn't use XD and like make something beautiful and then hand it off to a developer. They were like, "Well, you need to design it and then you also need to get it up and running for me." And I was like, "I just design things. I don't know how to do this." And I was using Dreamweaver and I was like hooking it up with the server and putting it online for everybody, and I hated it. That was like not great for me.
Yeah, not the best, not the best.
General Kenobi is still quoting Star Wars in the chat. Hate leads to suffering. It did. Uh, it did. That's not wrong. Um, but yeah, so I hope that I don't have to design any more websites. I definitely could pull that skill out of my Batman utility belt if I need it in a pinch, but it's not my favorite. Definitely by far my favorite is illustration, small animation, and honestly, there's been some graphic design projects that were really satisfying to me. What
Yeah.
is your favorite, like your favorite kind of project to do versus what is your absolute least favorite kind of project to do, Chioma?
Um, my favorite work so far that I've done has been like character design, freelance work, because it just give you, they basically just say, hey, here's what we want, do whatever you need to do. And they're usually like really satisfied with the stuff that I make, and it's just like a super easy gig, typically, and I actually enjoy it. I think my least favorite that I've probably done so far, aside from like the graphic design poster making stuff, is probably environment stuff.
Really?
Only because even though I've done like a lot of environments, it's still something that I'm not super comfortable with doing. So I'm always worried if like my client isn't gonna like it. That hasn't happened yet, but it's still, a thing in the back of my mind. But yeah, so I
So
love doing character designs though.
so when you say environments, do you mean just like scenes in general, or do you mean specifically like interior like buildings or and stuff?
Yeah.
And like outdoor.
Yeah. So with that, it's usually typically like they'll ask me to come up with like a concept, like for an environment. So they'll give me a prompt. Like, let's say there's like a game company and they're like, okay, we're making a game about, I don't know, the setting is going to be like a kitchen or something like that. We want you to make, a, a whole world based on just like one kitchen. And they want you to put like textures in there and they want you to do this, that, and the third. And, I mean, obviously it's fun doing like biz dev stuff because I'm also a biz dev artist. But again, it's just the whole like anxiety of whether or not they're going to like the idea. Because there have been times where like I've showed or like I've pitched an idea before and they're just like, this isn't really working. We'll just come back in a week and give us something else,
Yeah, and then you're like,
so.
well, I hope I can give you something else in a week. But
Yeah.
no, I know what you mean. I think maybe like now that I'm thinking of it, even I think that environments and landscapes and things are also, they're not really my strong suit either. And I've done a handful that I'm very proud of, but I don't know that I could just like do them on command again. I feel like all of my successful landscapes have been like one-offs where I was like, oh, I'm doing it. I'm doing the thing. I finished it and I post it. And then people are like, oh, you're an environment artist. I'm like, no,
No,
I'm not.
sir.
I got lucky. These are like 5 of like the 5,000 I've ever attempted that you're seeing. So no. But it is kind of weird because, if you're doing a landscape for somebody else, then you are kind of held to different standards than like what you're
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with pushing it to. And I think it's probably way easier to critique a character design than it is to critique landscape, because the landscape, you gotta, if you get a change, then you've got to actually go into this environment and like change everything that you've done. Whereas changing character designs is, in my head, maybe I'm just thinking of it that way and that's why it seems that way, but in my brain, the way that I would work on something, I think I'd have a way easier time making changes to a character than to
Oh yeah,
to an environment.
most definitely. And even though like I always forget how technical character designs can be, and that mainly applies when you're doing like turnarounds and stuff, because you have to make sure everything is like aligned perfectly. And you got to make sure like, you know, all the parts of the face and the body are even. But even like if there is like an adjustment that a client wants, it's usually nothing too major. It's like, oh, you know, I don't really think that outfit's working. Maybe change that outfit. As opposed to like if it's an environment, it's like, I don't like that entire forest. Change that up. Change the colors of the grass. Change this. You know.
Oh yeah. What's the most aggravating correction you've ever received? Because I've gotten some interesting ones. I did a like a bust portrait of a character for a client one time. It was just like a personal private commission. And kind of going into like what I mentioned yesterday, where we kind of talked about how sometimes people who will hire a creative to do something, they really don't understand what it takes to do certain things and how the process works. And I sent them the painting, and I told them at this stage you get minor corrections. Major corrections are for the sketch phase, when I can literally change anything and it doesn't matter. After I start painting this, you can make minor changes such as color, because I can change color very easily. You can still make changes to the background, because I'm not doing an extravagant background and it's separate from my illustration, but that's, you know, those are kind of the only things that you can change. And I got the painting back and they said, I love everything about it, but can you put her in a different outfit? And I was like,
oh no.
What? I can't.
They just don't get it. I'm telling you, they just do not get it, man.
I cannot ask her to change clothes real quick. I have to paint her all over again.
So we love it, but change everything about it so far.
Yeah, like her face and her hair is good, but can you put her in a different outfit? Like, I'm just like, let me look through my closet and just put her in something else. It doesn't work that way. And I understand, because like some people are not really thinking of it that way. But that was like, honestly, they thought that would be a minor change, and it just wasn't a minor change. So I wonder if you've had any doozies like that where you're just like, oh, like that is not, that's not what.
Yes.
Ooh, that's not how it works.
I was gonna say, it's funny because I don't usually have clients like that when it's illustration work, but when I was doing graphic design, it was like, I'm not gonna name the company, but they're a great company, but they're just very like particular about what they want. So there was a poster that I was doing for them last year. And it was for like just an event that they were having in New York. And I don't think I've ever made that many changes to anything in my life. Like because I sent like 15 different versions of the same poster. And every single time I would send it back, it was like, you know, move the text like 3 pixels to the left, and then change the blue to like a slightly more saturated teal, and then do this and then do that. And usually I don't really care, or I don't really mind whenever people ask me to do minor changes, because, you know, it's whatever, just trying to make the client happy. But we were going back and forth for like 2 weeks. So I was like, the event's kind of coming close. Like, are y'all sure y'all want me to keep making changes? But eventually they settled on something. And then they paid me for it. So I was like, all right, let me not complain anymore.
Yeah. But, all right. You holler at me with that paycheck, and that's great. I think it's the worst when you make changes and people don't understand how labor intensive those changes are, and they don't think that it's a big deal, that there should be an extra charge or whatever for that work. And I think that's when having a good contract and being very clear and good with communication comes in good handy, because sometimes you do have to kind of have that discussion where I'm just like, like for me now, because I've been in the bad situation before, I will be like, all right, I can make these changes. I can absolutely do that. But this is what I'm willing to do for the price we've already hammered out. If you want X, Y, and Z done, that is going to take me, a significant amount of time, and I would be charging you for the time. So
Right.
make a decision, I'm going to scroll up here because I think Wade says just click on the change wardrobe button. It's all digital magic anyways. Yeah, exactly.
True.
Also, I think I saw Nourish saying, I don't hate website design. I just don't like doing it myself. It's not the creative method that makes my creative heart happy. I need a different kind of creativity to nourish my art soul. Okay. And if you do web design, that does not mean that I don't like you. It's not even close to what that means. So don't worry about that. It's just not for me personally, but I am fascinated with people who do it and do it well. Yeah. Let's see, what else do we have? I feel like Chioma can read and manipulate curves like a person can read waveforms. It is magical. This from Megan.
Thanks.
Yes, she is Megan. kind of a pen tool wizard over here. That's not a joke. Let's see. This episode where they presented a box makes me think of the internet. Yeah. Let's see. Pizza Cats. I don't know what Pizza Cats is, but that's an interesting title. Web design is from the Stone Age. I still use frames. From Robert. That's cool. I want to know if there's any people who design websites. What is your method in the chat? Like, what programs are you using? Because there's a lot of ways to do it these days. So I'd be interested to know. Interesting client requests, always a fun topic. I know you probably have some interesting ones, Wade. I don't know if you're interested to share, but I would love to hear some. Someone recently asked me to use Adobe AI to generate pieces of artworks. No.
So stealing? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what Annika says. So what, like Adobe AI, I'm assuming the AI you're not meaning Illustrator, you're meaning like they were meaning like Adobe artificial intelligence to just generate artwork.
Okay. So
yeah, let me open my Photoshop and just press my art button and make art after I type in the specifications, and that's it. That's all it takes. Honestly, Chioma's just been pressing the one art button this whole time, and that's obviously how it works. Just kidding. That is not how it works at all.
I really wish, but sadly.
Yeah. Gosh. Change a little something to generate the rest. Can't you do that with your Adobe softwares? No, we can't.
I don't think that's how it works.
If that is how it works, I've been like in the dark this whole time about it, and I don't know. Once had someone ask me if I made a photo montage composite with Excel, and could I show them how to do that? No. Generating miracles in Excel and PowerPoint. Reading minds. Oh no. Reverb's using Dreamweaver. Yeah, I used Dreamweaver for a long time. Megan says she uses Wix for a website, but I have experience with WordPress, but Wix works for what I need right now. Nice. Pizza Cats are the okay, I get you. All right, I understand now. You guys were making a clever joke and I just went right over my head. You just delete the extra pixels to reveal the art. Stop. You guys are so sarcastic today. We've been doing it all wrong. The art buttoning. Literally laughing out loud. I need an art button too. Yeah, I think we all do. For the days when we're just not feeling it, and just press the art button and do all the work you would have done anyways.
Yeah.
coming right up. You guys are funny. You guys are so funny. All right, so we're adding a jacket in here today, and we're getting back
Yes.
into some of this magical pen tool usage here, which I love. So, and you're kind of doing again what we were talking about yesterday, where it's like you're placing this in here, and you are kind of doing it at an angle and perspective. And I love it. I love watching this come together. So this is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a very trust the process kind of thing. Because when you see it, like at first, you're just like, just a bunch of like random shapes, but it usually like comes together later on. So yeah, I was just looking at like a bunch of Victorian men's fashion. So that's why I'm like looking at a bunch of like trench coats and stuff like that.
Which was so cool, right? Like I often take a look at the Victorian era styles, and I'm struck by how much I want to wear the men's fashion more than I want to wear the
Yeah,
women's fashion. Mostly
it's
because I
so
don't know if I
clean.
could breathe in anything those ladies were wearing back then. But the guys' fashion actually was really legit.
Yeah,
I love it.
loved it. So yeah, I don't think I ever, I mean, I like touched briefly on this, I think yesterday, but yeah, I wanted to talk about like shapes and how to break animals up into shapes. So yeah, this is, I like drawing mice a lot. I don't know if a lot of you have been following me on my Instagram or if you just have been looking at my portfolio, but I draw them a lot. And I think it's mainly just because they're so easy to break up into simple shapes. So yeah, typically whenever I draw mice, I like to use the teardrop shape method. So because mice and rats usually carry most of their weight in their bottom half. So that's where the whole teardrop shape comes in. But you can apply that method to any animal. I know I do the same thing whenever I draw bears because I like drawing bears a lot for the same reason. What else do I like drawing? Cats too. So it really all just depends on like the real anatomy of that animal and how much you want to push that into like a caricature. And that's what makes character design so much fun.
I love it.
Oh.
Wade has a deadline story for us, and I think this is hilarious.
Let's hear it.
Says, I was asked to paint an entire family's portrait, 6 people, in 2 days
Big.
and have it film ready. I said, not going to happen. And they said, well, we'll pay you to try. So I tried.
To try.
That's actually really cool, because like most people would be like, well, we really need you to do it, so we'll pay you if you can do it. But they're like, no, we'll pay you to try this. I feel like if somebody needed something like that and they sent me, the like proper reference and stuff, and I had 2 days, it's not going to be, what you would want for like a finished painting. But if you're going to pay me to try and it's decent money, I'll give it a serious good try. Like
Yeah,
I would do
effort.
it. Yeah. I really would.
Same here. I mean, there's been times when like I've had a client ask me if I could do something, and I've been like, I've never done that before, but since you're paying me and you're asking me nicely, I will try my very best. And typically they like appreciate stuff like that. So
yes. All right. Let's see. I want to know. Yeah, Viola wants to know if they loved the attempt. I would love to know like what their reaction was. Let's see. We got some Yoda quotes in the chat. Do or do not. There is no try. And Wade says, well, technically I did try.
A for effort. A for
the
effort.
one time Yoda is wrong. Yeah, I would really like to know what they thought about the attempt. Because that's difficult. And we'd been talking about deadlines like yesterday and today. It's just like those, sometimes getting a tight deadline really, really is just the pits. But like I think though that situation is better just because they understand. Like I feel like when your client is like forcing you to do work like really, really fast and just crank it out, it's really nerve-wracking because you're like, gosh, is this what everybody does? Is this what I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be doing? Is this expected of me? But I feel like if your client knows 100% that they are pushing you to the limit and they're like, we know, just try to do what you can, I feel like that's a totally different feeling, right?
Yeah.
Like
Um,
they understand that this is really difficult and just try it. Just go for it.
yeah,
See
I
what you
think
can do.
that's also why I like doing like animation or illustration based freelance work so much because they get it.
Mm-hmm.
I've had clients who don't really know anything about art. So obviously they're expecting, like, okay, we need all of this done by like tomorrow. And you're just like, that's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, people like in the industry usually get it. So you typically get a lot more time with them, which I appreciate. Because even with my job, like we have very, very, very tight deadlines, but they're not going to chop my head off if I don't get something done in a day. You know, they're typically really understanding of that. So
That's
yeah,
good.
it really all just depends.
Yeah, having that good relationship and that understanding, I imagine, is just like so much better than just kind of floundering and feeling like
Yeah.
you've been thrown in the deep end a little bit. So that's cool. I feel like we've been talking about really stressful situations
Work.
when it comes to
Yeah.
work, but does anybody have any stories they'd like to share about like just some really positive interactions and experiences with work? Oh, it looks like Wade is answering here. Oh, the attempt wasn't my best work. Turned out okay, but I think it didn't make the cut anyways because they didn't use the scene, or maybe they didn't because of my work. Uh-oh. I'll be in a dark room the rest of the day thinking about that.
Oh
No, not
no.
really. No, positive vibes, Wade. You know what? I think that the way that you should feel about that is if they asked you to do that, they probably, like with that amount of time, they probably have been asking tons of people and no one would help them, and you were like, okay, I'll help you. And
Yeah.
I think no matter the reason why they chose not to use the work, I think that they will probably always remember that somebody actually tried to help them crunch towards that deadline, and that is worth so much, knowing that somebody is crunching right there with you and working
Yeah.
with you. That's a good feeling. Somebody gets it, somebody's there, somebody sees and knows, you know.
Also, it's funny because I feel like this is kind of off topic, but not really. But talking to like a lot of these art directors is not as intimidating as people make it seem. At least like in my experience, because my school was very like rigorous about the whole, you have to say this during your interview, otherwise you'll never get hired anywhere, you know, very like intimidating. But a lot of the experiences that I had with talking to like art directors or clients have been really great. Story time, y'all, because we have all the time in the world today. But
Hey.
I had last year, like they were offering a lot of portfolio reviews for people, you know, because COVID and people were trying to get hired, do work. And I had the honor of getting to talk to Zach Retz. If you guys don't know who Zach Retz is, he's a art director over at DreamWorks. And he's done like everything, like he's worked for everyone at this point. I mean, he's super, super talented. And I was like really nervous going into that Zoom meeting because I was like, this dude is like up here and I'm like down here, because that was before I had gotten any of my opportunities and like my resume was super blank. Like all I had to show was my work. And then like I meet this dude and he's like the most chill person ever. Like I think the first thing I asked him, I was like, so you look kind of stressed. Like how was your day? Like how are you doing? And he just started going in. He was like, yeah, you know, I'm just like super tired from work and, you know, stuff like that. And I was like, this is like a normal person. Like
Just
I
down
felt
to
more,
earth.
I felt more comfortable talking to him than I did with like some of my classmates that I had in school, you know? So
Wow.
really great experience. So if any baby artists out there are like nervous about reaching out to recruiters, don't be, because they're really not as intimidating as a lot of these professors make them seem. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
I think that that's really important too, because I've had some experiences with that myself where you really kind of there is a lot that's like built up in the heads of people about like when you're approaching people who are professionals in the field that you really want to be a part of, like don't mess it up, don't X, Y, and Z, all the, all this crazy stuff. And I think it kind of gives us maybe an unhealthy dose of fear when we're approaching something that you shouldn't be approaching with fear. I feel like fear, in many cases, kind of directly staunches creativity,
Absolutely,
which is unfortunate. But I think that that's been my my experience too when it comes to working with larger companies. And like, I mean, for example, like working with Adobe, I think that I was horrified when I first finally like got in contact with them. I was like, no way, they want me to
it's
use
Adobe. Oh my
Photoshop.
gosh.
Why would they want me to use Photoshop for them? And I just like came out just like timid, like shaking in my little boots, like, came in. Everybody's so nice, guys. Everybody is so nice because they're people. They're everywhere you go, you're going to be working with people until the aliens invade, and then I don't know what happens after that. But for now, you're just
right
working
now
with people. And it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, there's still sometimes people can be a little unsavory, but I think for the most part, especially when you're working in like a creative field, rather people kind of have it twisted as far as like what a deadline should look like and all those nitty-gritty details. You're still working with people who are passionate about the work for the most part, and I think that you can talk to people, like you say, like kind of going into that and just kind of talking to him about his day, his life,
be
and
yourself.
I think, just do you. And because the thing is, when you're getting hired for a creative job too, I think that your personality shining in an interview and all of that kind of stuff is important, because they're also choosing like who they're going to be working with for the next long while, and the person that you are is important when it comes to that, and I would say, like, don't go in there like, oh well, Chioma and Voodoo Val said that I could talk and so that's what I'm gonna do. Pick your moments, read the room. But yeah, if you feel like that's something that you can do, don't be afraid to show who you are and talk to people. I also have a link here for, I believe this is Zach Retz. Is that what you said?
Yes, Zach Retz.
RETZ. That is, I found the art station when I googled it just now, and I think that you guys would probably like to peek at that because it's pretty fabulous. He's got a very very painterly and impressionistic kind of vibe to his work, in a way that there's absolutely no mistaking what I'm looking at. This is like so pro, so good. So this is really impressive. I like the Spider-Verse stuff. It's like killing me right now.
Yeah, he's great.
Pretty awesome stuff. I think aliens do use some kind of Photoshop, Val. They could. That's the next step. I'm actually just here to hopefully one day connect with aliens and start using their alien Photoshop. That's the whole goal here. Sorry guys. Sorry everyone. I'm just waiting for alien Photoshop 47, CS 47. Remember, you are picking them to work with as much as they are picking you. Yes, it is also very important. And sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we can't be picky about the work we apply for and the work we accept. I've definitely been there more times than none, where I'm like, oh, another website design job, here we go. And I just look in the mirror and I smile and it doesn't reach my eyes. But you know what? You gotta do, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. But if you have the opportunity to be a little bit picky, be yourself and ask yourself if you are applying to work with people that you resonate with, because that's, the interaction is such an important part. And I think that the people who have given me positive experiences in a creative work environment, I've never forgotten any of them. But I've also never forgotten the ones that were hard to work with, You
never forget those, but
never.
They're there for a reason.
Yep. I think I the one client, if anyone has I think it would be interesting maybe to share horror stories and then things that you might have done differently to like fix that, just to offer advice to people, you know, who might be maybe facing some issues like that of their own right now, or just to warn them about what can happen and how to avoid it. But I did not set up a very good contract once. It was at the beginning of my career, and I worked with a person who wanted me to do like a banner for his social media and an illustration of him. And I was doing both of those projects for $40. $40? $40.
Guys, don't sell yourself short, by the way. Another
Don't
lesson
do
of the
it.
day.
Yes. We had just been talking about this, I think last week in the chat too. It's just like, just because you are new to the scene and you are not like a pro level famous designer does not mean your time is worth nothing, and it does not mean that you should sell yourself short, because you deserve to be paid for your time, just like anybody who goes and gets any kind of job, you know. But yeah, I was charging $40 for it, and I was like $20 for a banner, $20 for an illustration. Let's go. I think I was flattered that somebody had actually offered me money for my art, and then I was horrified and did not know how to tell him how much money I want. Yeah, look at everyone that's in the chat like, what are you doing?
How could you do that?
I've been there, folks. I've been there. Okay.
It happens. Yeah.
And I did the work. I did the banner. He was happy with the banner, and then I started doing the illustration, and I started sending him updates on the illustration, and he sent me a 6-paragraph letter back, talking just rude, just mean, like overly unkind. It like really made, the only reason why I didn't get sad is because I was more mad about the things that he had said, not just about the art, but just like he was like, you know, I hate working with artists. And I was thinking, then how are you gonna get your banner done? Like, how's that gonna work for you? And I ended up telling him it was the first time I'd actually had to like fire a client. I just said, you know what? Yeah, I was like, you know what? I am not going to be working with you anymore. You've paid me half the money up front. I got that down pat. I was like, it's a $40 job, but I did take $20 up front and told him I would exchange the final product for the final payment at the end. That's a pretty good way to do it, I think. But I said, I will not ask you for the other half of the money, even though I've already started putting in work to the other half of the project. I will allow you to use the banner because the banner's finished and the banner's paid for, but I will not be giving you that first $20 back, and I will no longer be working with you. This is donezo right now.
Down.
Yeah. And then he was like, well, I'm going to sue you. And I was like, for $20.
Yeah,
I'll wait to hear from your lawyers.
The lawyers laughing in the distance, like, we're not going to take this case on.
Yeah. And I that was like one of the, I remember getting that message from him. My heart was like, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I'm going to sue you. And I was like, no. And then I told my mom, and my mom was like, he's not going to sue you for $20. And I was like, are you sure? And she's like, no, he's not going to sue you for $20.
Yeah. People just say that, but they don't actually like go through with it. So,
but it was scary. And I learned that, number one, charge what you're worth. And it's easier said than done. I know it firsthand. Also, get a good contract together, so it's not like a verbal agreement or just whatever you write in an email. So you have things hammered out. And also, don't let people run you through the mud. Don't let people walk all over you. It was difficult, but I stood up for myself, and that's something that you kind of have to learn how to do too, because when you work with people who don't understand what it takes to do design, people have very different expectations of you and what you will do for them, versus what you actually can do.
Exactly. Yeah.
But if anyone has some other stories they might like to share, if you have one, Chioma, please feel free. I don't know if you're in the mood to like tell us about terrible things, but I think it's a good learning experience.
Yeah, I've never had like a client like that before. Like I've never had one upset me like that, but there have been times where I've had issues with for time management. That's another thing that you guys got to like boil down, because once you're taking like a lot of projects at once, you have to know when you can work on what so you don't get overwhelmed. I did not know that last year or the beginning of this year. I was just like, I'm just going to say yes to everything, even though I already have like 30 different projects to do. But yeah, I was doing an environment for a company. I don't think I can say the name because they haven't even announced this project yet, but it was an environment that I did. And I have never procrastinated that much in my entire life, because it was literally like I would meet up with him once every like week, and I would just do the environment stuff the day before, and then I would spend like 16-18 hours just in my chair doing it. And I was like, this isn't my best work, and I'm showing this to the client and I'm not happy with it. But you know, it's just because I wasn't managing my time well enough. So that was like all on me. Yeah. But don't do that, kids. Do not do that.
No, don't do that at all. But I agree with you, and I tell everyone, yeah, don't do that. That's bad. And I've done that before though, because you do get to a point sometimes where you're just like, okay, let's do next week. I'll work on that next week. This is due in 2 days. I will work on this now. And then you're just kind of jumping around until everyone's getting work that you did 3 hours ago. And it's not a good feeling.
A good habit.
It starts to really overwhelm you and wear you down after a while. Let's see. Fairy says Val's $40. I only charge the $4 to $5 to my friends though. Listen, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. A lot of people think that giving, like hooking someone up with the homie cost is how you treat your friends. Like, oh, it's my friend. I should give them a really good deal because they're my friend. And that's what I did for a lot of years. But what I found out is I actually think that it is the other way around. I think that friends should pay you what you're worth, because strangers always try not to. And the people who are your close friends are the people that you can trust and feel comfortable enough to tell them the easiest that this is what I need to survive. And I don't think that you should be not able to support yourself because your friends and family won't pay you what you're worth. I think, like I said, I think they're the easiest people in the world to say, hey, this is really actually what I need. And you should, because the friend discounts will mess you up. They really will. And it's worse when you start giving people friend discounts and then they start telling people how much you charge them. It'll mess you up. Don't do the friend discount. You tell grandma, grandpa, best friend from college, middle school, elementary school, they do not get the homie cost. That's not how it works.
No, most definitely. And even still, like, I feel like your reaction to somebody that's close to you having like any kind of business or something, your reaction to be to want to support them by any means, you know? So whenever people ask me for discounts or they're like, can you draw me? That's like the ultimate question that artists get is, can you draw me? No, that's the answer. But yeah, they should want to pay you because that's how they show their utmost support. Because all my friends that have like freelancing businesses, or my best friend has like a skincare line, and I always buy her stuff, you know, because that's how I support her business. It's the same thing with artists. So do not give your friends stuff for free. That is terrible. Do not do that, because then it forms like a lot of bad habits.
Yep. And then you get people popping up out of the woodwork. That happened to me for a while, where people were like, yo, I heard you did so-and-so's graphics on Twitch for like X amount of money. And I was like, I don't even know him. I don't know who that is.
Who is this? I have never heard of them.
If you want me to do your graphics, it's going to be X, Y, and Z. That's what your choices are. And then I immediately text, what's his face, and let him know that he needs to keep his mouth shut.
Yeah,
about the homie cost. And then I stopped doing that. I don't know. It is hard because especially when it's friends and family, and maybe you understand intimately the amount of money that they have to put towards doing something. But in that case, use that as a bargaining situation and experience, because I've had people say, I need this done and this is my budget, and I say, well, I can't do that for that budget. That's a lot of extra stuff, but I'll tell you what I can do for the amount of money that you have. And I will try to do my best to kind of check all the boxes. And I've done, like, if somebody's offered me, instead of asked me to do something specific, is just tell me how much money they have in the budget, and then I will tell them what I can do for that. And sometimes, honestly, if I have the time, if I'm not crunching real bad on a job, and I'm not working on tons of things at a time, sometimes I'll throw in a freebie, like a template for social media or something. I never really say that at the beginning because I never know if I can guarantee that, but I do toss stuff in if it's something that doesn't take me a lot of time or whatever. But I will not take jobs for less money than than I feel like
Than your worth.
I deserve. Yeah,
Right.
because I've been in that situation. It's not fun.
Yeah.
Always negotiating. Yeah, you should. I mean, you can negotiate. I think that honestly, this line of work is one of the best lines of work for negotiation, and it's a good skill to have. So
yeah. And it's funny because I had a client last December. They paid me so well, by the way. This is probably like one of my favorite clients that I've had up to date. But it was like a bunch of interactive learning illustrations that they wanted me to do for their company. And my base was 90 per illustration because they wanted me to do 35. And then I was like, okay, it's gonna be 90 per illustration. And then they asked me to go lower. And I said no. And then they were like, okay, we'll pay you that much. So these companies have the money. They'll try to negotiate with you at first, but don't ever sell yourself short. Like, just say, this is what I want. You can't pay me this. I'll just go somewhere else. And typically that's when they fold. They're just like, okay, we'll do it. So yeah, another lesson of the day.
I think that you can also, because sometimes a company really, like, they have the money, but they really can only expend a certain amount in the budget. But if you negotiate well and you don't get the gig right then because they're not willing to pay that amount, but you do it with kindness, honesty, respect, you articulate yourself very well, and leave a good impression, people will come back when they have the money to pay you. I've had that happen a lot of times where I've had somebody ask me, because I get a lot of people that like jump in the DMs like, hey, can you paint this for me and all that stuff. And I actually take a lot of jobs like that. If somebody messages me and just says, hey, can you paint me something like this? Or they give me a description and they're like, I really would like an illustration of this sort. Like, is that something you can do? I say, yeah. And I will give them a quote for how much money that's going to cost. And sometimes people say, sorry, that's a little steep for me. And I say, well, how much money do you have? What's your budget like? And I'll tell you what I can do for that. Or if you really have your heart set on getting exactly this is my price. And I can't go any lower than that, but feel free to message me if you ever find yourself able to, to work with me on that. And I've had people message me back and say, thank you for being kind. And I have some money saved up, or maybe they've changed what they want me to do and now we can work together. And it works. So budgeting also helps to curb expectation, Dennett said. When the client is told what they will receive, that is what they will expect. If you leave it up to them, they will expect a masterpiece for $20. Yeah, and oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many years I spent like just charging a really, really small amount of money for a lot of work. And one of the things that I do like to say a lot, and I think this goes with what you were talking about, Chioma, where you're talking about like companies have the money to pay you. I also just say, like, steer clear totally of anybody who tries to pay you an exposure. It's damaging, I think. I think when people do that, if people continue to do that, then They also change the landscape of understanding in the creative community as a whole. Because then if other people are doing it, people who are admired by many people are doing it, then people who aspire to be like them will continue to do it, and then companies will continue to be able to get free work, and it just spirals out of control. But the advice that I like to offer everyone who is wondering about taking a job for exposure is this: if a company has so much pull and clout in the community that their exposure would actually transform your entire career, they should have enough money to pay you what you're worth. And if they're not, they're ripping you off. That's just what I think. Because I've never had somebody whose exposure like actually was like, oh my gosh, my life is different. But I'm like, if you're that big, if you're hot stuff like that, you should have the money to pay me. There's no question about it. Because you don't have that kind of clout unless you can afford paying artists. So I just think it's a lot of smooth talking that gets people to do stuff for free. So don't fall into that trap.
Yeah, that's also how I feel about like stuff like unpaid internships. I don't understand why that's still a thing. I feel like if you're going to be training somebody, but they're still doing a ton of work for you, especially with like big companies, I've noticed a lot of them have a lot of unpaid internships, and I'm just like, what am I gaining from this? You know what I mean? Because obviously exposure is a good thing, but if I know that you're making like millions, I feel like it would make more sense for you to pay your workers what they're worth. But that's just my opinion.
What do you think about art tests?
Art tests? You mean like design tests that you send to them, or?
Yeah, like when you apply for a job and people want you to do an unpaid art test, and they want you to give them like, because I've heard some horror stories where people are like, yeah, it's an unpaid art test and I have 3 days to get them like 2 weeks worth of work and I just have to do it.
Yeah. It's funny because my job, they made me do a design test. So I'm glad that I got the job, because if I wouldn't have, I would have been really sad that I did all that for nothing. But yeah, I guess they're helpful because they want to see like how you can adjust to maybe like their workflow or like the style. They want to see if you can change styles. So I guess they're helpful. But I feel like they only feel worth it if you actually get the job. So it's like a 50-50 kind of thing. But yeah,
I feel like an art test is not an unreasonable thing to do, but I think that it should be paid. Because I think that typically when people are applying for jobs, your company is not the only company that they're applying for. And I think that if they were hired by your company, so they're doing a lot of other stuff, they're working, they're looking for a position, but I think also when you send somebody an art test, you like if they're going to actually end up working for your company, you're going to be paying for them. And if this is supposed to be a simulation of what work together would look like, then I feel like doing an unpaid test really sets it out of balance, because if they were working with the company, they would be getting a fair amount of money in exchange for the hard work that they're putting in. But when you don't pay them for the art test, then you're getting all the art. And you're not really, they're not getting anything in return. And I don't think it's unfair to think that perhaps somebody who's being paid for a significant amount of the work is putting in more effort and getting a different result than people who are not getting paid. And I don't think that that's wrong, because I think that when you're putting, you're giving it your all and you're going for it and you're doing a bunch of stuff, you should get paid for that. And when you're not getting paid, but you're desperate for a job, you're still putting in that effort. But it's kind of like, I think on the same note, it's a little bit sour, because you know that like if you don't get the job, then you don't get anything for it. You just get a sorry, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah,
and I think much. I think you should, if you're going to simulate what work together looks like, if I give you art, you should give me some money. I think.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things that can change in the industry right now, but I guess that's just the way it is. But I wish it wasn't.
Yep. Yep.
So,
It's and that's it's kind of interesting because it is the way it is. A lot of
hmm
people do things a certain way, and certain things become widely accepted.
hmm
And I think that though, like the way that those things change and the way that we evolve into a stronger community that sees our fellow creatives, getting paid and getting the recognition and all of the good stuff that they deserve, is simply by changing the way that we interact with clients. And obviously, it's not going to change, like, because one person says nay to a large company. But I think that when we don't encourage each other to feel a certain level of self-worth, and we don't communicate with each other and help each other through certain stages in our art journeys, then we find people who are very, very uncomfortable with charging what they're worth. We find
hmm
people who don't know that they can charge more than $40 for a banner and an illustration. And I think that if we shared with each other more and kind of did that, then we could change the minds of clients as a whole, because then we would all be together on the same page. Like, this is how much this costs,
Yeah.
because I think now people can just be like, well, I can go to somebody who will do this for $5 and not pay you the $200 that you're asking for. And you're just like,
Well, sheesh.
yeah, it's a bummer, but I think we surpass it with love and respect for
Yes.
each other.
And transparency. Because I love when people like talk about money, especially like a lot of big artists on their YouTube channels. Because it's seen as like such a taboo topic to say this is how much I make in a year working for this company. But honestly, stuff like that is really, really helpful for baby artists, because or not me saying we, okay, they have like a better idea of how to price themselves up front, so you don't run into problems like that. But
No,
yeah.
I think it's really good. And I think that, like, in my experience, I've run into a lot of the like big super giant artists that are very like close to the breast about, like, this is a secret, or this is how much. And like you say, sometimes discussing these kinds of things are very taboo. But I think that, like, we gotta get more people talking about it, because I only got to the point where I could charge the money that I charge and make a serious living, because somebody finally told me the answer. Because I didn't know how to really do it. I was floundering, and I was starting to do all right on my own after a while, after enough disaster projects, where I just realized that's way too little money for this amount of work.
Right.
But I was helped by somebody who'd been in the industry longer than me, who gave me some advice. And if the more larger people we can, more popular and kind of in the industry kind of people that we can get to share those quote unquote taboo facts, I think the better that we will all be as a whole, because it can teach us.
I agree.
Let's see. We give unpaid tests in news, but that's to test your knowledge of events, etc. And you take the test right there. You don't have to spend hours and hours. Oh, okay. So they just kind of quiz you right there. That's interesting. We got some money bags and some paintbrushes coming through from Fairy. Especially if they're trying to send you client work as the test, it should be paid. Oh yeah. Yeah, Wade. That's what Wade is saying. And that's I've never had anybody do that to me, like try to send me work that they actually needed done for a client as a test.
Same.
Ooh.
But I feel like that's definitely a horror story that like a lot of people go through. So
yeah, I would be steamed. Absolutely steamed. If that
and then they still don't hire you, and it's like, But I
Oh,
did
but I
all
did
that
your
work.
client. Yeah, I did your client work for you though.
Yep.
Huh.
And then they're like, well, we can keep it because you signed the contract. And you're like, all right.
Mm-hmm.
It happens.
Yeah, an institute. I institute a. This is from Rob.
Mm.
Institute a jumping frog fee if they make an unacceptable amount of minuscule changes. They are charged extra. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've gotten to the point where like when I catch folks who are like that one client that was like, can you put her in a different outfit? I say this is what you get. You can change X, Y, and Z. I will reiterate to you the things that I consider a minor change. And I will then say, if you want these other things done, please understand I have to re-illustrate it, and I can do that for you, but I will be charging you for another commission.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would have to do a whole other painting in order to make this the way that you want. And I think having really good communication throughout the design process is really, really important. And to an extent, it is your job as the designer and as the person who's being commissioned to work on your communication skills so that you don't run into those issues where your client has no idea what's going on, is very confused, or maybe feels like they've been thrown a curveball. However, humans are humans, and that doesn't always work out that way. You can't, you can be a very good communicator and still run into issues. And when those issues do happen, you also have to make sure you put some stat points into your kind of confidence bar, because you will have to make some decisions and do some negotiating. And hopefully that negotiating is in the favor of you not, working so many hours that you're not getting paid what you need to be paid.
Yeah.
And it could be difficult. But I think the end goal is to get to the point where you're taking enough work that you can have like an
Comfortable balance.
assistant or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a comfortable balance and somebody who's like maybe handling that stuff, because I'm not, I draw things. I don't like to look at contracts.
Yeah. Same.
But I have to sometimes, and it just like kills my brain. Just like, not the business stuff again. Can I just draw pictures?
No, I actually have. Do I have the book? I do have the book. Okay. So this is something that one of my professors actually forced us to buy, but it's basically, it teaches you everything about like pricing your clients if you're an illustrator.
Ooh.
So this is
Maybe
okay.
We can full screen this so we can look at this cover, because
Yeah, can y'all see it? Hold on. Can you see it?
I can sort of see it. Give us 1 second here. I want to see if we can bump this into like a full screen mode, so that people can pop it over. Maybe not though. What is it called?
Okay, so this book is called Pricing and Ethical Guidelines, and this is the 15th edition. So yeah, this book is like godsend. It basically teaches you everything you need to know about like pricing, and especially like with how many hours you're putting into a project, what would be the appropriate starting point. Just it tells you everything. And I'm really happy I got this book at the time that I did, because it was around like Christmas time, so I wasn't getting like as many clients as I usually do like within the spring and summer. So it prepared me for like the influx of clients that I had months later. But it's really great. And now I'm like more comfortable with talking about money as an artist because of that book. So I would highly recommend it if anybody doesn't already have it.
It was a very chunky book, but
very big.
It is jam-packed with very good information, it sounds like.
Yeah.
I think one of the best resources for me, like when it came to pricing, is I read an article one day that was like if you're gonna charge, because people are like, well, I charge hourly, and then some people are like, well, I charge a flat rate. I read this article that was breaking it down, like when to do that and when not to, and then I heard Chris Do, if you guys are familiar with Chris Do, a graphic designer, kind of talk about the same thing, and the information that I gathered, I felt was really interesting. Number one, when you're going to charge for a project hourly, or charge like a lump sum of money, like a flat rate, you should choose whichever one is going to be more lucrative for you as the artist. And the way that you decide between them has everything to do with how you actually work. Because if you're somebody that does really good work but works very, very fast, then charging hourly is not really great, because when you charge hourly for your work, as somebody who spent a lot of time getting to the point where you can work very fast, you're basically punishing yourself for doing well, which is not cool. So if you spend however many years like kind of honing your skill and getting to the point where you can sit down, you can whip out a logo in no time, and it took you 2 hours, but that logo is like a top tier logo, you should be charging a flat rate for that. Because just because you did it in, you might have done it in a few hours, which I don't know that maybe you did do it in a few hours, because it is hard to do a logo, but you know what I mean, you do that logo in a few hours, and then you only get paid for like 3 hours of work, but you should be charging a flat rate, and that flat rate should include the work that you did, and it should also include the years that you spent actually honing your skill, because they could go to anybody in the whole world, but they came to you and your experience and your knowledge and your creative voice. Those are important things that should be factored into what you're charging for the product. And also when you're charging a flat rate, and it's just like, you want to look at your job that is in front of you, estimate how long you think that job is going to take you to do, how many days, including just like, how many hours are you going to put into it a day, and how many days are you going to be working on it, and what kind of work is it going to entail, and all that kind of stuff. And then divide that by or multiply that by a certain amount of money to see like what the hourly wage is. If you have an estimate of what a flat rate is going to look like for that, divide that by the amount of hours that you imagine you'd be putting into it, and see if you're actually making minimum wage or not. Somebody asks you if you can do something and you quote them $1,000, that might sound like, ooh, $1,000 job, and they said yes, that's pretty cool. Not if you work on it for 10 hours a day for a month straight.
Yeah, you need to get paid way more than that.
Yeah, so do the math on that, and then pad it with some extra money, because I can tell you not every job has gone exactly the way I planned it. It's just the nature of the thing. So do some serious thinking about it. I think I've actually seen this. Let me see what Wade is posting. Oh, this is a different edition. I don't think that I've seen this one, but yeah, handbook, 16th edition, Graphic Artists Guild Handbook, Pricing and Ethical Guidelines. Awesome. So this is a good one here. Great one to look at. What if you're new to a discipline, not completely confident with the medium, example animation, how do you approach the client? Honestly, and I'd love to hear what you think about this. By the way, we've got about 6.5 minutes, I think, left until our artist spotlight. So we are coming up on the end.
Okay.
I'll try to stop talking so much. But I think when you go out and get a regular 9-to-5 job, and you start working at a grocery store or the mall or wherever it is you're going to work, whether you're doing customer service or working in the food industry or what have you, when you first start out doing that job, they pay you less because you're a brand new person, but you're not getting paid less than minimum wage. There's always a bar where they're like, it's unethical to pay you less than this. And you can get a raise as you go through that job and eventually get paid more money for that job. But you always start out with a certain amount of money that you're getting for your time and efforts. The same should be true for a creative job. You should not be getting paid such a low amount of money that you're losing money on the job whenever you work. even if you are new. Just because you don't know as much as other people, you're not as experienced as other people, does not mean you're putting any less time into it. It does not mean that you're not giving the effort to that project. You are still working, and you deserve to be paid if you are working a job. And I think people get that twisted because they think, well, if I make up my job and I'm a freelancer, I don't know if that counts. Yes, it counts. If you're working, it counts. It's a job. It is a job. But have you had any experience just with that? I mean, I imagine probably, but just like really maybe feeling not very confident with asking for a certain price, and maybe how did you overcome that a little bit, Chioma?
I think, well, the book definitely helped. But I think going into like the beginning stages of freelancing, I realized that I was reaching burnout so fast because of all the work that I was doing, but I didn't really feel like the amount that I was getting paid was really equaling up to that. And I'm not really somebody like you don't have to be confrontational to just say, hey, can you pay me this much? But I'm not really a confrontational person anyway. So it was really, really hard for me to be like, hey, listen, this is like what I'm worth. But once it started like affecting my health, I was like, okay, if I'm going to be doing this much work, I should at least be compensated as such. So I think that definitely helped me break free from that, shyness aspect of it. And, if I always try to tell myself like there will be more clients anyway. So if a client doesn't appreciate, how much you're asking for, there'll always be another opportunity. So that's definitely something that always soothed me whenever I was worried about that. And it just became easier as I started getting a lot more clients. So it's really just the process, but it becomes a lot easier once you keep going.
Yeah, I agree. And Robert Winterberg is saying something that's kind of really goes with that. And with my own experience, is that Twitch can be a kind of a trap for young artists when it comes to commission work, because they do not charge for their work what they are worth. And because they think they're kind of doing that online, and it does like kind of feed into other stuff, like when you're doing a live broadcast and you're charging a very small amount of money, then everybody on a certain platform will assume that that's what it costs. And I started streaming on Twitch in 2014, and I think I got partnered on Twitch in 2015, maybe the end of 2015 or the beginning of 2016. And I was doing art predominantly there. I was like streaming art constantly. I was streaming 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. I was like grinding on it, and I was not charging what I was worth. And a lot of it was hard because even in the moments where I was very confident enough, like to say this is the money that I want to be making for my work, for my time. One thing that I heard all the time is, well, so-and-so only charges this much. And that was because there's a lot of people who were looking for quick money and would say, donate, I will draw this thing, and this is how much it costs. And then it's like kind of hard when there's people who are underselling themselves in the same space for people who really were like trying to break away from that to charge the money. And that's kind of what I meant by learning and growing and supporting ourselves and our friends and members of our community as a whole improves it for everybody. If we all band together and make decisions and learn and help other people understand together as a unit, then we don't run into problems like that. We can start to change the narrative and the understanding of other people who are not us, what to expect to pay when it comes to art.
All right, break the cycle.
Yes. We got about 1 minute left here before we jump into the spotlight, and I see that you are adding some beautiful kind of highlight and rim light there to that ear, and it is giving me life. But I'll probably ask you a bunch of questions about that when we come back. But if anyone would like to ask any questions, we are going to switch over to the spotlight soon. So if you have questions, you can throw them in chat, but also save them. And remember that you can always repost questions. when you when we come back to the work, because we're going to kind of jump into the spotlight, but we'll come back and kind of review everything that we've been doing here. And I'm pretty excited actually to show you folks this the spotlight. So why don't we jump over and do that real quick if you want to come to a stopping point, Chioma?
Sure.
And I am going to share my screen.
Should I stop sharing mine?
Go ahead and keep sharing.
Gotcha.
And I will, I'm going to share mine and then we can switch. So give me 1 second here. Let's see. Right here. All right, that should be it. And I think there we go. Can everybody see that? I want to make sure real quick. Actually, I'm going to drag my Behance over here. Okay, cool. I just needed to drag my Behance over here so I can still see the chat. All right, so this is Natalia Yamshchikova. I hope that I have said that right. If not, please let me know. I don't know if you are in the chat, Natalia, but please give us a shout out if you are. If you are in the future and you're watching this replay of your spotlight, I am so in awe of your work right now. I think this is really spectacular. And maybe we can just like kind of peek through here and see what we see. Does anything jump out at you instantly, Chioma, that you would like to check out, or do you want to just kind of peruse for a little while?
First of all, I love the textures in this.
Yeah.
And the colors are awesome too. It's very graphic, retro kind of vibes. I like that one, the second one.
This one right here?
I like that one a lot.
That one really, it just kind of pops out at you. Illustrations for Esquire Russia, November 2019 issue. Yeah, this is... You know, I'm looking at this texture and I'm seeing not only is there like this halftone texture, but you know, she comes in and puts these other little soft rounded things here just to add more like muscles and creases in the face, which just oof. Ooh, it's so good. These are just like, it's like stylized, but like it hits all the points of what a face should have, you know?
I love that.
Oh man, that's so good. I love this layout. I wonder if this is what the actual layout looked like, or if they just put like this as a mock-up, like to show maybe how these could be used. But yeah, that's beautiful. I really do like the layout for this. This is really quite nice. Yeah. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, well done. That's awesome. Let's see what else we can jump into. I'm thinking, I really was looking at this childhood superstitions thing with the birds and the hair right here. So I'm kind of curious to peek at that one. Okay, so these are the childhood superstitions like listed. Like 100 mosquito bites will lead you to death. I've never heard that one.
Me neither, but I'm not surprised. Sounds like it could happen.
Yeah. So that's the illustration for that. That's, oh, this hair is just that's so good.
Yeah.
We got some close-ups on this too. Oh, that's so pretty. That little flower. Oh man. If you throw your cropped hair away, birds will pick it up and build a nest and give you a headache. I've never heard that one either.
Me neither.
But that's cool. Maybe it's just like culturally from other parts of the world. Like this is maybe what they say. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, there it is. There's the cover
love
photo.
That hair.
And these look like they're painted on wood.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask what medium she used with this.
Yeah, like they're painted on wood and then just the pictures are taken against like a concrete wall. Wow. Oh, I love, this is my favorite one. This one right here. I love this. I would love to have this as like a button or on
Oh
a
yeah, a little
t-shirt.
enamel pen or something. That'd
Yeah,
be
yeah.
cute.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh, that blue and that face is just like, I'm sick of these birds. I'm sick of them. Oh, wow. Oh, there's the birds carrying the hair away. Wow, 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 wow. I like that there's so many different things. If you swallow a whole sunflower seed, it will sprout in your belly. That one I've heard, except for here, it's not a sunflower seed, it's a watermelon seed.
Watermelon. I knew it. Yep.
Yep, yep. But gosh, this is really cool. If you yawn at your reflection in the mirror, you will ruin your beauty. I've never heard that one. That's a one I've never heard. Wow. If you look at the moon
Ooh.
long enough, you will become a lunatic. Never heard that one either, but that moon is legit.
Gorgeous. Yes.
Ooh.
All the craters. Wow.
Yeah. Did we miss no. I think this might be the last one. Yeah, that's the last one. Those are awesome. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Have a good pal from Ireland, and he once said all the childhood stories in Irish culture have woeful results for kids who don't behave. That doesn't shock me because I'm kind of a fan of like the old-fashioned fairy tales.
Same here.
And then the ones in Disney end really, really sweet, but in their countries of origin, the original stories do not. And I believe that is because, I think back then you would tell children stories to frighten them away from doing things that might actually put them in serious danger.
Yeah.
Going into the woods at night, going to the riverbank at certain times of day when the tide could be too high, all sorts of things, because you can't really tell young children don't do that because that will make them want to do that. But if they think there's a monster in the river, they probably won't go.
Yeah.
But gosh, these are just so good. Do we want to peek at one more?
Sure. I kind of like that yellow one up there.
This one here?
That one.
Yeah,
that one right there was really cool.
Okay, my illustrations for a long read, Hell on Wheels, Pain and Hate in Russian Taxi. So this is like a taxi kind of thing. I love these masks. This must be like, oh, it's like an animation. So this is like frames from the animation. This is crazy.
Cool.
Oh my gosh. So they're like transforming. So they have masks on. And then the closer it zooms into that rear view mirror. Oh, here we go. And there it is. And they just start kind of transforming. Oh, that's so cool. Death Behind the Wheel. This is like really like the
Wow.
imagery here is really powerful. Wow. Oh, that's cool. So we have like
I love the pops of yellow.
Yeah, and the panels, and I love that we got like the pieces of the under the hood that are revealed. That is really cool.
So cool.
Oh, this is what I really wanted to see this. Like all the stuff kind of going in to the stomach and everything. That's really neat. Yeah, that's like what the banner is from on the main page. That is cool. That's really cool. All of this is really cool. I don't really quite understand what's happening, but it seems like it's really distressing. Very serious. I'm
seeing a lot of cats, right?
Yeah, a lot of cats. Oh wow. What? Look at that. So we got stuff like disappearing and appearing in these different windows. That is really cool.
I like the pops of red too.
Yeah. Honestly, it merges really, really, really well. I love just all of this stuff. I wonder what this was animated in, it might say at the bottom, because I'm really digging it, and I feel like this is probably something maybe you or I could achieve in the Photoshop timeline, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. It also looks like it could be done in After Effects. I haven't animated in After Effects in like 3 years, but it's still a
Mm.
pretty good like animating program.
Tools, just Photoshop. Nothing
Wow.
else is listed. That's amazing.
Nice.
Wow. Well done. Very, very well done. This is excellent. I'm giving you a follow. Thank you
Yes.
so much. I don't know if you nominated yourself or if somebody else nominated you, Natalia, but this is really excellent work. Thank you very much for letting us give you a spotlight today. Everyone, if you can, please go follow her and check out her work, give her a follow, and kind of explore some of these other projects, because there's so much more here for everyone to check out. And we're going to go back to your work, Chioma. So if you want to go ahead and start sharing your screen,
Yeah, sure.
we will get that going.
All right. So yeah, we have like 20 minutes left. So I have like enough time to add my last couple details, you know.
Yes, it's gonna be more like maybe 15, because we do
15.
stop like
Let's
but yeah,
see.
so just to let everybody in the chat know, we will most likely be jumping offline at about it's 11:10 a.m. here for me, because I am running on Pacific time, but we'll probably be taking off at about 11:25. We will have our daily creative challenge coming right up after that. And yeah, so we do have a bunch of pretty cool stuff planned for the rest of the day. But if you have any last minute questions that you would like to ask of Chioma, now is an excellent time
Yeah, feel
to
free.
do that. Yeah, because we want to have enough time to like kind of get your questions in and get them all answered and all that good stuff. And if you're over on YouTube and you would like to hang out and talk and ask some questions, please come over to behance.net/live, because we are reading the Behance chat. We are not reading the YouTube chat. So yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about the kind of extra color and stuff you're adding here? Because before we
Yeah.
jumped over here, you were starting to add light, and now I see you're adding this really beautiful green color into this jacket, and I am living for it.
Yeah. So by the way, I'm using the Dice. I hope I'm saying his name right. Dice Sumi brushes. But yeah, he was a concept artist at Pixar for a really long time, and he released a brush set
Oh,
as a part of
cool.
his schoolism class. And they're like
Nice.
the best brushes ever. I always use them for environments. I love them. But yeah, so I'm just adding in like some highlights to his clothes. I usually do this with like an overlay layer. So I'll take well, depending on like the color palette I usually use like a pale yellow color. And then I go on top of it with the overlay blending mode. And sometimes I'll like change up the opacity so it's not too harsh. And then yeah, it always gives like a really nice little effect. But
Yeah,
yeah,
this is really, really cool. I love, like, because I saw you start to kind of add that light up on the ear, and I was like, ooh,
yeah,
this is like one of my favorite parts.
it's like my favorite step.
Mm-hmm. It's looking pretty cool too.
Yeah.
So we've gone over like kind of placing these shapes in here. We've gone over color. We have gone over kind of adding in textures and things. We're going over light. We've gone over artist lifestyle and confidence and charging clients, interacting with clients. We've gone over so much. Does anybody have anything else that they are interested to know about? Or maybe a reiteration or more in depth than something that we've already discussed? Please let us know.
Yeah. Also, this is like an open question because it's the end of August, which means it's Halloween first, in my opinion.
Yes, absolutely. It's
So
been
what are
Halloween
y'all's
since last month.
right? But what are y'all's favorite animated Halloween movies? I'd like to know.
Ooh. I feel like Nightmare Before Christmas is at the top of my list. I
Good
also
choice.
consider James and the Giant Peach to be like a
Oh, that's my
scary.
favorite movie.
Really? Oh,
Yeah, that's like my favorite movie of all time. I'm actually considering getting a tattoo for it because that's how much I
really?
love that movie.
I remember the very first time I ever watched that film. I must have been, gosh, like 6 or 7, and we just got cable in my house. We'd never had cable, and my mom came and got me. It was late at night. It was like, well, it was like 9 o'clock at night on a school night, and I was not up late at that time, you know, because my mom was like, it's time for bed, you're getting into bed. She came and got me. She came and woke me up, and she said, James and the Giant Peach is on. And I was like, I don't know what that is. And she was like, what do you mean you don't know what that is? And I was like, I don't know what that is. Yeah. She was like, well, you're gonna come out and you're gonna watch this movie if you can promise me that you're still getting up early for school. And I was like, yes. My parents just offered me the option to stay up late, of course. And she brought me out into the living room, and she sat me in front of the TV, and she made us a snack, and she sat down on the ground next to me, and we watched it. And I was hooked because if you guys are familiar with the movie, I know you have to be, Chioma, but that intro where it's like it's showing it, and it has all the bugs and stuff like in the background as it's rolling, like the credits of like who's involved in it. I was like, what is this? And then all that stuff at the beginning with like the weird gummy creatures, and I was hooked. I was just worms. Like, yes. Yep. I was like, what is happening? This movie is the bomb. This is legit. And I've never forgotten it. It's a great film.
Awesome movie.
Great film.
I'm trying to think. Coraline is definitely up there too. Coraline. It's weird because like everyone that I've met has always said that movie terrified them, but I was like 9 when it came out, and I was obsessed with it.
I loved that movie. And my family members still to this day call me YB. That's one of my nicknames in this house.
I can see it.
Especially my hair was short and like kind of did a weird bang thing, like his, like with the bangs at the time. And so yeah, I've been YB for several years now.
Love that.
Let's see. Nightmare for sure. Mona Quinn says Frankenweenie. I don't think I've seen Frankenweenie.
Yeah, I think it's Tim Burton still.
Wade Acuff says Vincent. Best Burton short film. I don't think
that's an old one. Okay.
I don't think I've seen Vincent.
Yeah, it's one of Tim Burton's like first works.
Yeah, it's like 6.5 minutes. That's interesting. Okay, I'll give that a look-see.
Good taste.
Yeah, Coraline was brilliant. Coraline was one of those where I like sat for hours and watched the behind the scenes time lapses of like you can see Coraline moving, and then you can see like over the top like the tons of hands like super fast, like changing the heads and like changing the positions and everything as they move. Yeah. I've seen so many of those time lapses of that. It's just wild.
Yeah, stop motion is so cool to me. I still don't understand the mechanics of it because with my minor, there's like different divisions you can go into. Mine was 2D animation. And I don't know if SCAD offers a stop motion division, but they should if they don't, because it's really awesome.
Yeah, it just seems really, really cool. I'm sure there's tons of people who've grown up watching these Burton films that are just like, I want this. Megan says Over the Garden Wall. Mona Quinn says The Other Mother. Elizabeth says Halloween Town. Of course, Halloween Town,
a classic.
There's always Harry Potter marathons that I end up watching. Yes, that's a good one. I'm like a pretty big horror buff too, so I'll watch like some pretty scary movies. But I think one of the scariest movies I've seen to date. I don't know exactly why it was so scary to me, but it just like really knocked me sideways a little bit. It was Hereditary. That's if you're
why
into
did I know you were gonna say that?
Because it's just like a mind bend movie. It's just in it was I think it was because I watched it and I was like, this is what it would be like if something was actually happening to you like this. You know, like it was actually pretty realistic.
I was gonna say it's funny that you mentioned that because I was actually going to say Midsommar, and it's the same director.
Yes. Yeah. Midsommar is also really good. And I've never like rooted for a strange cult so much for one movie, and it's just kind of it's just a weird, it makes you feel weird about your own decisions and opinions. It's a movie that definitely elicits a serious emotional reaction, but those are pretty cool. So if you guys are into actual scary films, like really scary films, and not just like the nostalgia feel good scary movies,
or the like 20 jump scares. No, it's not like that at all.
no, I don't think Hereditary even got like more than maybe 2 jump scares out of me, but I was horrified the whole time. And I feel like it's hard to terrify me. The Babadook was great.
Yes, I love that one.
The Babadook was dope.
What was that one quote? If it's in a name or it's in a look, you can't get rid of it. The Babadook, something like that.
Yeah,
I was like quoting that all throughout high school.
Oof. That one got plenty of jump scares out of me, which I try to pride myself on being a person that you cannot jump scare in a movie, but the Babadook got me.
It was a good movie.
I read Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow every year around Halloween. That's a good one. I also am down for the Johnny Depp film. Let's see. I liked the Us movie of doppelgangers. I haven't seen that one. Yeah, me neither.
I've seen Get Out, but not that one.
Yeah, I saw Get Out, but I think Us came out around the time where everybody was like, we can't go to the theater.
Oh yeah, so that's true.
I think a lot of people kind of missed some things. Curious, is there a difference between making the layer overlay blend versus making the brush blend to overlay? That's interesting. Maybe we can answer that question real quick before we have to take off. We've got about 5 minutes.
Yeah, so basically, whenever I'm like doing lighting, I don't like to build it as I'm painting. Whenever you use the brush overlay version, it like intensifies the light as you add more brush strokes. So I don't really like that, which is why I just use the blending mode for the whole layer. Does that make sense? Kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you paint with it, it keeps intensifying because you're stroking, you're doing like more
over and over again, right?
But if you just do it on the layer, then it's not the brush itself, so the layer can only be as strong as the entire layer is set to, and the brush can only get to that point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Elizabeth Wilson says the Netflix series for Hill House is very good. The Haunting of Hill House is one of the best. Hello, everyone. We are back. Sorry for the hiccup there. We are going to real quick kind of preview what we have finished for today, and then we're going to say goodbye. So you have finished your mouse.
I have.
Squeaklock Holmes. Yes. He's very dapper, very handsome. I love it. This is looking really great. Before we take off, because we got about a minute and a half here, where is a great place everybody can find you online, where they stay updated with your work and keep in contact with you in general after we're done here with the show?
Yeah, so my main place is my website, which is chiomailo.com. So CHIOMAILO.com. So that's all my contact information. All my social media is listed on there. But I'm also active on my Instagram, which is @C_ILOE. So yeah, make sure to follow me so you guys can see my personal projects coming up.
Yes, please do that. We're going to get those. There we go. We got Wade posting those links in the chat. So everybody, please check out her website, check out her Instagram, give Chioma a follow. Chioma, this has been an absolute blast. Thank you so much for joining us for these 2 days. It has been a pleasure watching you work. It has been a pleasure talking with you. And yeah, it's just been wonderful. I hope that you enjoyed your time here.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun, especially today. It was a really great day today. So
yay. All right, that is all the time we have left, folks. Again, please give Chioma a follow. Please stay tuned for the Daily Creative Challenge coming up after this, and we will see you another time. Adios, folks.